Welcome to this session, folks. This is on hope for rare kidney disease, and we're joined by one of our very good friends and allies, Richard Nelson. Richard was one of our first speakers at our Global Summit in 2019, and he is someone who realizes the impact of the disease on himself, his family, and people around the world. And he took it upon himself to start a new foundation, the Rare Kidney Disease Foundation, a strong ally of AAKP that I have the honor to serve on the board on, along with Richard and many of his volunteers. Today in this session, we're going to do a deep dive on some of the promising aspects of rare kidney disease and genetic research that are happening across the country, and specifically at the Broad Institute at Harvard and MIT. We're joined along with Richard today with one of his fine volunteers, somebody who's an executive in marketing, who works closely with corporations, and who understands the importance and power of message in terms of attracting and motivating people to a certain cause. This person is Joe Morden, and Joe is based in Detroit, Michigan, here in the USA, and he is also a kidney patient who comes from a rare disease background. Kidney disease is in his family. We're also joined by another longtime ally of AAKP, Dr. Anna Greka. And Dr. Greka is both a MD and PhD based out of Harvard and MIT. She is very closely affiliated and is on the board of the Broad Institute. And she has also started a new Accelerator program at Broad to make certain that science can be driven into innovation and lead innovations in genetic kidney disease research. She's a fine person. Look forward to introducing you to Joe and our good friend, Richard Nelson. Hey, Richard, thank you very much for coming back as a loyal fan of the Global Summit and as a great contributor of ours. We know that over the past several years, you've been very, very busy. And actually, since your last appearance with us, you've actually gone ahead and launched a foundation to help rare kidney disease patients around the globe. And we're so very pleased to have you. And could you tell us about the foundation and where you are?
Absolutely. It's after retiring 5 years ago, this is my cause. This is what I do every day. Have a great team. We're all volunteers. The foundation's all about accelerating, finding a treatment, supporting the Broad Institute. It's affiliate and also Wake Forest with Tony Blair. So why the foundation? It's really a patient advocacy foundation for the newly discovered 100,000 undiagnosed patients estimated in the United States and 1 million worldwide. Well, Paul, as you know, since we were on the PKD National Board together, there wasn't a lot of hope for a rare disease like mine. After working at the Mayo Clinic for many, many years, 23 years, it's referred to Tony Blair and then Anna Greka at Dr. Anna Greka at the Broad. Well, to go from only 600 patients in the world, which my family was finally diagnosed with, to now, 2 years ago, to 100,000 and 1 million worldwide. Well, that just changes everything. So we've been extremely busy the last year. I'd love to tell you what the foundation's doing if we've got time.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. Because I think what you've done is you've created a structure, really, and I see it as a huge gathering point for patients, so that then Anna and the research community have the people that they can interact with to advance the science. So tell us exactly how you've got it set up, Richard, and then also let us know how folks who are watching us around the globe today can become an active member and take part in some of the things that you're advancing, and also Dr. Greka.
Absolutely. Since these are promising compounds that Dr. Greka has developed, and with her Nuco company to take this to the FDA, it's a very promising time. These are promising compounds that may halt genetic kidney disease. Well, this is the first time in the 30 some odd years that I've been involved with this. And that's after hundreds of millions of dollars have been invested in research. So what are we doing with the foundation? We've got a strategic priorities. Number one, find patients for a clinical trial. If when Anna and her team get the science to a point in the next few years, 3 or 4 or 5 or whatever it takes, they need patients for a clinical trial. Even though there are a lot of patients out there that don't know that they have this disease, nor do their physicians, unfortunately. The education part of this just hasn't happened yet. And so just finding patients for that clinical trial is our number one goal. Number 2 is to continue to build out the patient community and also the physician community with kidney specialists, nephrologists, and others in the medical field. Focused on ADTKD. 2 primary diseases are MUC1 and UMOD. And then the third that we're hard at focused on accomplishing this year is finding grants to fund the foundation's mission. And we rely on great partners like AAKP and ASN and the Mayo Clinic to do that. So hopefully that gives the participants today a sense of this. Things have changed in the rare kidney disease world, and this is a promising compound that, when did we ever think that we could look forward to something that halts this disease?
Yeah, no, it's actually terrific. And while we've been talking, Richard, we've been able to put up the contact information for folks who are watching so they can go ahead and reach out. And then, Richard, I know this is deeply personal to you and to your family. And I was wondering if you could kind of capture for us the inspiration behind this and your family journey. I know that you've got some great photos that we'll share with folks, but why don't you go ahead and tell us what has inspired and driven you personally?
Well, our cause is all about families and family stories and how these genetic diseases keep giving and escalating over time. My family we can trace as 5 generations. It started back with Rasmus Nielsen in Brigham, Denmark, in the 1880s. And it comes forward to today, where 10 of 21 of our next generation children, my 5 kids and their 16 cousins, have a 50% chance of getting this disease. So it's very specifically to go to the photos. The first one's a photo of my family. It's a Christmas photo in 1956. It's read out, and you can see the family there. Sadly, this disease has taken the life of my father at age 43. 3 years after this photo was taken, he was a young doctor, young surgeon, with 6 children, and 4 out of the 6 of us have got this disease. Again, sadly, my sister, who's in the middle there, passed away. She was an angel, really remarkable person. She also had a large family. So this continues to pass to her family. And then my youngest brother, who's the little guy in front of my mom, passed away a couple of years ago. So this is a very personal story. The next photo continues the story about my dad. I had an extraordinary opportunity to go to Guadalcanal, the Solomon Islands, Vanuatu, and Munday, where he was a fighter pilot in the Marine Corps. He was there for 2 weeks this last fall. Little did he know, at age 27, as a major in the Marine Corps, risking his life, that his 6 children would suffer with this disease. He didn't talk about his World War II heroic efforts and medals and all those kind of things. He didn't talk about his kidney disease until he passed away in 1960. The next photo is of, this is a significant photo. It's an updated one from what Dr. Greka shared in her remarkable TED Talk last year. You can see my grandfather died at 39. My great-grandfather died at 39. 36 was when my grandfather died. He was one of 5 children. 4 had this disease. My dad got it, died at 43, and of the 6 children, you can see 4 of us got the disease. Well, this is a disease that keeps on giving. If there were 4 in my family and we have 21 at risk, that means there are 10 boxes there that represent my children and the cousins. And it looks like there'll be as many as 10 kidney failures ahead. So we're very committed to the remarkable work, beyond remarkable work that's being done at the Broad and its Nuco company and Wake Forest. Next, personal story. I was transplanted 33 years ago at age 42 from a 17-year-old girl in upstate New York who had a brain aneurysm. Well, that changed the second half of my life. Since that time, I've really felt strongly that because I've been given such good health and long health, that I needed to give back. And so after working with the tremendous expertise at the Mayo Clinic, where with Peter Harris, Doctors Peter Harris and Vicente Torres for that period of time, they referred me to Dr. Tony Blyer and then Anna Greka in this journey. That was 9 years ago. And so the journey continues. But again, this is about families. If you just look at the 18 volunteers that run the Rare Kidney Disease Foundation, they all have a story like this. 2 of them are waiting for transplants this summer. Boy, this is an area that when we finally found the Broad Institute and the work that they were doing, it was, after 3 decades of working on this, I just felt like there had to be some answers for this. And fortunately, there are, with Anna's and her team's efforts to take this one of these promising compounds to the FDA for approval.
Well, I tell you what, Richard, thank you so very much. And I know you've got the confidence of knowing that, but for those who are around the world listening closely, we will honor your father's service in the United States Marine Corps, and we're doing that. We have the Veterans Health Initiative of the American Association of Kidney Patients, and with your foundation, we're working closely with the VA, and we will expand our efforts with the VA through our new partnership with the VA to make certain that veterans with rare disease also have a voice. And if we can help identify folks to be helpful to you and to Dr. Greka, we will be doing that through that partnership with the VA. What I'd like to do, I know that Dr. Greka, you're listening to the patient burdens and the family impacts of this. I want to come to Joe right now and ask Joe, you're a business leader in the state of Michigan. You're in the business of branding companies and helping companies get new products out there. But you have a fascinating story, I think, from the fact that you watched kidney failure in a transplant in your family and how you saw that as a caregiver and how you can contemplate that as a patient.
Sure.
I think our audience would be interested in hearing about that.
Yeah. So my story kind of starts in 1986, and my father went into kidney failure in 1986. I was 2 years old. He was transplanted in 1987. He got a kidney from my uncle, and like Richard, he's doing great. He's healthy. The whole second half of that has been spectacular. Then kind of growing up, that was always kind of, we grew up with that. We never knew, there never was a cause for the failure. That kind of just got chalked up to, hey, I think they called it nephritis, which, through my journey, we've kind of learned that might be like a little bit of a catch-all thing if something's not quite diagnosed. So fast forward a little bit, in my 20s, going to live forever. So, and when I turned 30, I thought, okay, I'm really active, really healthy. I should start getting blood work done just to kind of start monitoring it. And that blood work came back perfect. I turned 30, perfect. Everything was perfect. And I remember both my parents kind of asking, like, well, what was how are the kidney values? And, oh, everything was great. And I think looking back now, there probably was a little bit of a sigh of relief, because I think that for them, that was always kind of in the back of their mind as well. 10 years goes by, I get married and have 3 kids and build a house, and didn't stay up on the blood work stuff. Hey, I'll do that next year. And then, another baby's coming, or, hey, we'll do it next year and we're building a house. So when I was 38, I thought, okay, I'll be 40 in a couple of years. I should probably start getting back into that and start getting a map, start getting a little runway as I go through my 40s and my 50s.
So, Joe, tell me something. When you hit your 40s, then what are you taking a look at based on your labs and all the other things that you have going on in your life?
Sure. Yeah. So I, coming up on 40, I thought, okay, I should get kind of back in the swing of this, start doing testing, and really kind of keeping an eye for my 50s, thinking like, oh, I'll have 10 years of data and we can see if something creeps up. Of course, when I go in there, we get the blood work done the first time and we come back and the kidney values are all out of whack. And which was alarming to me, obviously, with a family history. So I called my doctor, who was great, not a nephrologist. She was just, our family doctor. And her whole thing was kind of like, well, everything else looks pretty solid. We did a pretty in-depth panel, but since your father went through this kind of around the same age, we probably should, do some more testing. She also thought that since I had worked out the day before, the day of, that can skew the results, which I didn't know at the time. So we kind of redid all of that testing. It comes back, it's still elevated. And so that kind of took us through a journey here in the health systems here in Michigan. And honestly, I think there was probably 5 different nephrologists that, I consulted with, through different health systems, kind of trying to figure out no one could really pinpoint it because, there was a couple values that were really out of whack. Some values were still within, the appropriate ranges. And so it just really wasn't boxing correctly. There were theories on I was taking too much vitamin D potentially, and that skewed it. There were other theories that there were other things out of whack. But kind of in the back of my mind, with my father's stuff, that was just too coincidental. So my wife, I joke that she's the brains and the looks of the outfit here. She's fabulous, and she said, "Hey, we got to go to Mayo." So she got on the phone, got us into the Mayo Clinic, who was, anyone who's worked with the Mayo Clinic knows that they're absolutely, top-notch group of people, from everyone, from the people that work in the parking garages to the nephrologists, obviously, and really did a full suite of testing, pretty much everything you could do from, biopsies on down. And, at the end of all that, finally coming to the conclusion through the genetic testing with Wake Forest that, it indeed is a MUC1 diagnosis, which, it just, no one, it wasn't on anybody else's radar just because it's not talked about enough at this stage, and then that kind of sends you into okay, now I got to learn about it. I got to go read about it. And so we go to, Google, we're Googling everything. Obviously Dr. Greka is, she was one of the people that comes up right away, kind of watched and read everything that she had put out. And my wife found the foundation. And so I reached out to the foundation actually on Instagram, just in an Instagram direct message, and said, "Hey, this is who I am. I happen to own a branding agency outside Detroit. If you guys ever needed help just getting awareness out there for this or anything with your foundation, please let me know." And so, Richard actually got right back to me, and we ended up spending, an hour plus on the phone, kind of talking about different stories, talking about the foundation. And that was kind of the first time, it really was the first time that, as he mentioned, there was some hope, because he was talking about things that weren't necessarily, that I didn't necessarily read on the internet about, hey, they're actually working on a therapeutic. I didn't know that at all. And, you know, this therapeutic might be, you know, 5 years, 10 years out, but there's a timeline associated to that, which obviously is important for us, because having 3 kids, that's a big deal to have a genetic diagnosis. That's probably been the hardest part of it all. And so, you know, like Richard, I thought, okay, we got to go just jump full in and help with anything I can, whenever I can. And that kind of led us to meeting you, Paul, and your great organization too.
So, Joe, I wanted to thank you very much for putting your shoulders behind a solution after dealing with a tough diagnosis. And let me ask you one question before we go to Dr. Greka. So after you did your looking around on the internet and you Googled and you read some of the information, at that point, what did you think in terms of what the impact would be that you could have in advancing a solution right in that initial stage?
Yeah, well, I just knowing where I come from with branding and you know, the main point of branding is awareness. I just felt like there wasn't any substantial awareness behind these diagnoses, just because I couldn't even find it. I couldn't find answers myself. And so it was one of those things that I felt I, you know, stumbled into almost, of like, hey, you have a skill set. There looks to be a opportunity to help this, you know, group of doctors and researchers and patients and future patients. You know, if you could help advance that, why would you ever not? So, you know, in a weird way, like, hey, maybe I was put here at this point to do that, to help that. And unlike patients like Richard, who's been, you know, going through 30 years trying to find this, I'm almost spoiled that I get here at this intersection and all this work's already been done. So, hey, what can I do to help accelerate that? That's kind of what
No, it's a perfect segue to Dr. Greka. So, Doctor, what I'd like to ask you is, you've been working very closely with patients throughout your career. And I know that 5-6 years ago, I was introduced to you at the American Society of Nephrology's Kidney Week by Richard and his folks. And I wanted to get a sense from you, because I think it's very important for patients to place mark progress in the eyes of the professionals and the researchers that work with us. And so if you take a look back over the past 5 or 6 years, what's your sense for those who are watching today and in terms of progress being made from your expert viewpoint?
Yes, thank you, Paul. It's really an honor and a pleasure to be with all of you today, and to really have an opportunity to discuss, you know, the remarkable progress that has been made in this area. And of course, we have a mountain to climb still in terms of the work that remains, but the fact that there's so much hope now for patients with genetic kidney diseases. And I think today we're focusing on MUC1 kidney disease and UMOD kidney disease in particular. And so I think that I'm dually trained. I'm a physician and a scientist. So as a doctor, I am a kidney specialist, a nephrologist. I see patients at the Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston. And as a scientist, I work at the Broad Institute of MIT and Harvard, where I lead a team of researchers to try to understand genetic kidney diseases like MUC1 kidney disease and UMOD kidney disease. And so from everything, all the stories that have been shared today, I think that the theme that comes across is that these are rare genetic diseases, but not maybe nearly as rare as we initially thought, and that there's a great need to raise awareness so that we can identify more patients who stand to benefit from the research that is now going on in this area. And I would say that the progress, especially in the case of MUC1 kidney disease, has been really astonishing, because the gene was only discovered 10 years ago. And since that discovery at the Broad Institute, we have been making a tremendous amount of progress in understanding how the misspelling in the DNA that results in this disease, how does it affect kidney cells? How does it make the circuits inside those kidney cells go wrong? And if we understand what goes wrong, then can there be ways to fix it? And so my team has been focusing on exactly understanding these mechanisms, and we've had quite a bit of success in doing that. And so now what Richard is discussing is that we made some foundational discoveries that are now moving toward closer to patients because the discoveries that were made here at the Broad have been licensed to a company, a biotechnology company that can now bring these treatments toward clinical trials. Now, that still takes quite a long time. So from the discoveries in the lab all the way to getting to clinical trials, there are still many steps and many years along that way, but we are closer than ever. And to be able to say 10 years from the discovery of a gene, uromodulin was discovered quite a while ago, so there's been 20 years since the discovery of the uromodulin gene. But even still, within 10 or 20 years of discovering a gene, to be in a place where you can talk about the potential for a therapy, I think is truly astonishing and remarkable. And most other genetic diseases in the kidney or in any other organ cannot claim such speed in terms of getting to this point. And so I think there's every reason to hope, while no one can predict the future, there's every reason to hope that we are going to be able to advance toward a meaningful therapy for this disease. So it's a very exciting time for us as scientists and as doctors. And the key component to ensuring the success of any chance we may have to bring a therapy to patients is to find more patients, to raise awareness with my colleagues about these diseases so that more genetic testing can be done, more patients can be found, more families can be found, so that we can ultimately find all the people who stand to benefit from this progress.
It's very helpful, Doctor. As a matter of fact, the point that you were just making about working with your colleagues, one of the things that AAKP and Rare Kidney Disease Foundation have found is that doctors, when they're pulled aside by patients and asked questions and asked to help educate others in the profession, are very willing to do that. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things that Richard and I have talked about is for patients that think they may have a rare disease or who have kidney disease in the family, what are some of the things that they could bring, for example, like a pocket guide of 5 questions to ask their nephrologist about getting themselves into a registry? Do you think that type of education from patients involving their doctor would be helpful to your efforts?
Oh, absolutely. This would be critical. And this is why it's so valuable that the Rare Kidney Disease Foundation was created through efforts by Richard and the 18 volunteers on that team, as well as you, Paul, and the AAKP raising awareness. I think it's critical that patients go to their nephrologists or even their family doctors and say, I don't have a good explanation for my kidney disease and I would like genetic testing. I think it's as simple as that. We don't even have to complicate it with multiple questions, but it is often the case that there's an unsatisfying answer. Take a young person who is active and otherwise healthy, and then all of a sudden they have an unexplained increase in their creatinine or a drop in their glomerular filtration rate or GFR. Well, there's got to be a reason for that. And sometimes people are not aware of their family history for very different reasons, small families that live far apart from one another, not well documented histories. Sometimes prior generations didn't like to talk about illnesses in the family. So for whatever reasons, people may not be aware of that. But if there's no good explanation for your kidney disease, if you're not satisfied with that answer, I think that the right course is to go to your doctor and say, can I have genetic testing? Can I see whether this is a genetic cause for my kidney disease? There have been studies in very prominent medical journals that have shown that up to 10% of all kidney disease patients have a gene there's a misspelling in a gene or a genetic mutation that causes their disease. And that's an astounding number because we have so many kidney disease patients. And if 10% of that population is suffering from kidney disease because of a genetic mutation, then we should absolutely know that information because there are many therapies that are now coming down the pike that could help these patients and their families. And so I would advise all kidney disease patients to think about asking their doctors for genetic testing. I think that would be really wonderful. And then once there is an opportunity to have genetic testing and there's answers that are coming back, that there's for example, a mutation in the MUC1 gene or a mutation in the UMOD gene or any other mutation. Richard mentioned earlier polycystic kidney disease. The next important step after you have a genetic diagnosis, it's so critical to join a registry, to be a part of these places where we aggregate data from many patients so that we, the researchers and the clinicians, the doctors, can study these patients, the course of the disease over time, and then when the time comes to be able to draw from these registries to enroll patients in our clinical trials. It is critical for the success of these programs that we have these registries. And so I would encourage all patients out there to ask about genetic testing and then join the appropriate registries so that we can all benefit from the discoveries that are now coming down the pike.
And then let me ask you one other question, Doctor. In terms of the registries and the awareness of kidney disease, plural, we've seen great changes happening at the United Nations, the World Health Organization, and with FDA's colleagues in Europe, European Medical Association, the European Kidney Foundation, and others, where doctors and more policymakers are seeing kidney disease not as some monolith, but as kidney diseases, plural, including rare kidney diseases. And so the regulatory decisions and the payment decisions are starting to incorporate that type of thinking more. I wanted to ask you, for doctors around the world that you collaborate with, what are you seeing in terms of that trend? Is that something that you would agree is happening and is a helpful thing to you?
This is absolutely critical, and I have for years advocated for the plural, kidney diseases, because there's so many different causes for all these kidney diseases, of course, including diseases that are driven by genetic mutations or misspellings in the DNA that we're discussing today, which are generally thought of as being rare, but again, some of them are more rare than others, and we're increasingly learning that MUC1 kidney disease and uromodulin kidney disease are not nearly as rare as we initially thought. It is estimated that there are 75 to 100,000 patients in the United States alone, and probably millions around the world, who remain undiagnosed with these mutations. And it's, again, as we said, a shame, because if there are therapies coming down the pike, all patients in the United States and all across the world should be aware of these genetic diagnoses. So I would say that it is absolutely critical to define kidney diseases plural, to understand the driving forces behind each of those different diseases that ultimately lead to kidney failure. And I think that this is critical, that this would be an international effort, as it has been, as you described, Paul. In fact, for the autosomal dominant tubulointerstitial kidney disease, or ADTKD, which is another term that we use for MUC1 kidney disease and uromodulin kidney disease, we do have such a registry, and it is international. And there have been colleagues from as far away as Japan and Australia and all different parts of Europe, China, all across the United States, South America. There are colleagues all over the planet who have contributed patients to this registry, who are actively participating in our research. And it is absolutely critical that we gather this information so that we can benefit as many patients with these diseases as possible. And again, this would be true for all kidney diseases. If I may, I think as a physician scientist, one of the most exciting things about this moment that we're in is, I call this the golden era of biomedicine. We have more tools at our disposal to diagnose and hopefully ultimately treat diseases than we've ever had before. So it is absolutely critical that we use these tools to understand the diseases at what we call the molecular level, not just say kidney disease as a nondescript catch-all phrase, but actually understand the specific mechanisms inside our bodies that are driving these diseases, whether it's diabetes in some cases, or MUC1 mutations in other cases. So it is absolutely critical that we use our tools to appropriately diagnose patients, to appropriately study patients, so that we can ultimately develop bespoke therapies, if you will, that suit every patient in the best possible way so they can get the best possible outcomes. This is within our grasp, and there's great hope. And I really want to emphasize the importance of all patients and nephrologists and colleagues being aware of these incredible tools that are now available so that we can have the best possible outcomes.
That's fantastic, Doc. What I'd like to do is, Richard, bring you in on this discussion and ask you, how easy is it for folks, Richard, when they become involved with the foundation to get into a registry? How do you help facilitate that?
Well, raredisease.org is our website. And thanks to you, Paul, coming on our board recently and with your leadership in AAKP, suggesting we need to involve more of the clinicians. We need to involve more of the healthcare professionals, specifically nephrologists. So we've created, this is the first time this has been announced, a rare kidney clinical advisory council. This is to reach out to the physicians, to have you come together. We'll help facilitate it. Again, contact us at that rarekidneydisease.org address and let us know that you want to be part of this. And we'll have a whole list of reasons why you should do this. But number one is just to help your patients. If as many as 10% of your patients, you don't know why they have a genetic problem, such as in my family for 23 years that I pursued this at the Mayo Clinic till I met up with Anna and Dr. Blair. So this is a major new initiative we're taking on. We're taking it on with you, Paul, and your leadership on our board and also on your policy leadership of the AAKP. That's one thing I wanted to underscore, the kind of numbers that are out there. For example, if there really are 10% of those that don't know why they have this disease, it's a huge number just in the United States. You take that one step further, your organization and others, national organizations, estimate that 25% of those on dialysis, 560,000 people on dialysis in the United States, 25% don't know why. Something's wrong with that. And it's not a knock on the physicians, it's just a knock on our system. We need to get the word out that this is no longer an ultra rare set of diseases like Anna was talking about. This is very doable, a lot of hope, promising compounds within the next several years, possibly even going to the FDA for approval.
So, Joe, as you listen to this, I wanted to ask you, as an expert in branding and having worked with a lot of different companies, oftentimes we're approached by patients and patients say, well, I just have a small voice in all of this. I'm merely the patient. And at AAKP, what we like to do is flip that around and say, no, the voice of the patient is what drives innovation. In fact, the theme of our session this year is Vox Populi for the Global Summit. But as you listen to these different elements and you think of it in terms of branding and marketing, are patients the brand? And should patients raise their voice and unite to demand more and to help researchers more?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everything is patient centric, right? And it's fortunately, unfortunately, this cause is very emotional, and that's what you really have to do from a branding perspective. Is you have to intersect with the rational and the emotional, and usually the emotional side of it is what makes people do something. They'll always rationalize why they should or shouldn't do something, but if you get an emotional hook in an idea, that's what makes big brands, go on for decades and decades. And so, like I said, fortunately and unfortunately, listen to these stories. It's all family based. It's all very emotional. And so, as patients, we have to, particularly in a smaller sample size as we kind of are at the moment, we have to use our voice to get that out there. And talking to the other volunteers, as I've gotten to know everybody, everyone's story is so similar. And it's like, hey, I just, we didn't know. Our doctors didn't know. We didn't know where to look. And so, we're at a time in history where information's available at the touch of a button, and everyone walks around with the phone, and you have a limitless reach of information. And so we kind of have to harness the idea and get it out in a cohesive message that we, the patients, can kind of help drive that forward. But it takes people to kind of be that first push too. And so that's, obviously Richard and the foundation have been leading that. Richard's been doing it and you too, Paul, you guys are out there doing it, and we just kind of gotta get more people involved.
Dr. Greka, when you listen to Joe and when you listen to Richard, I want to ask you something, and it's probably not a typical question for a patient to put to a doctor or to a scientist, but we appreciate your approachability. This is a golden era for kidney medicine, and it's especially a golden era for patients in terms of having our voice listened to at the highest levels, from the White House to Congress to the halls of research laboratories and classrooms at the best universities around the world. I want to ask you this. When someone looks back and writes the history of this golden era and this moment in kidney medicine, how would you like them to write about what your contribution was as a physician and a scientist, and how did patients impact your contribution?
Oh my gosh, this is an excellent question. I consider patients my partners in basically everything that we do. Patients are the ultimate stakeholders for all the work that goes on with my team. And we are continually inspired, which is why we have patients often visit us here at the Broad Institute to see our lab, to hear from people on my team about the trials and tribulations of research. It is absolutely critical that patients are true partners on this journey. And I hope that when the history is written one day, that this will be reflected in the record, that we partnered with people like Joe and yourself, Paul, and Richard, and so many others. And that we were able not only to raise awareness, which is absolutely critical, not only bring patients into our registries, which is, again, absolutely critical, but to also have patients as true partners informing every step of the way how we approach the research that we do, what we pay most attention to, what are the next steps in terms of advocating for any discoveries that we make to make it into the biopharmaceutical space, and from there, hopefully, to a place where we can complete clinical trials and get to the FDA seeking approval for something that is working for patients. All of these steps require patient partnership. And in fact, I would say that historically, you asked about the history that will be written, but if we also look as students of the history that has already been written, in any place where rare diseases have been successful in developing treatments, it has always been because the patients were deeply involved. They were leaders, drivers, partners of the whole process. And so at the end, for me, nothing is more important than the partnership with patients. And this is why I think it is absolutely critical that we have these summits and that we have these meetings where we can all be together and discuss these really critical and important matters, and why my lab doors are always open to any patient who wants to visit and check out what we're doing in the lab, and for us to explain what it is that we're doing and how our efforts are hopefully contributing to ultimately therapies, making it all the way to patients who are waiting. The patients are waiting. And actually that was the reason that I agreed to, as you can imagine, it takes quite a bit of time and work to prepare to give a TED Talk. But the reason that I agreed to do that was exactly for the same reason, because I really think it is most important to raise awareness and to show patients that we, the physicians and the scientists, are their true partners, that we value their contributions. We want them to be working alongside us on this journey, and communicating this to the general public in language that is understandable by everyone is really my mission. And that was the TED Talk was one part of that effort to really get the message out there and invite patients to become our partners on this journey.
Your passion shows, Doc, and your excellence in medicine and in research. We appreciate it. Richard, you listened to it. You're more than welcome, Doc. Richard, you listened to this, and as the founder of a foundation, and as a proud father and a proud son, I want to ask you one last question here. You've been in a lot of different arenas. You've been in the arena of technology, innovation, business, and you've been in the arena of public policy. to patients that are listening today, what would you tell them about the power of their voice based on your experience? And as customers of healthcare, how can you see patients driving the process?
Yeah, I've been involved with innovation for 25 years or more. I ran a technology organization that represented over 6,000 tech companies. And just in my state, I was the co-founder of a group of 50 like organizations around North America. And so the difference here is in biotech, it takes a long time, but Dr. Greka's long time is very, very short in comparison to what else I've seen in the biotech world. Tech is very short, and that's what most of tech is that we read about. Anna's inspiration and drive and extraordinary abilities to move her lab forward and to collaborate. This is not a closed model, as you just heard. This is an open model globally, even to her own lab. That's an inspiration that has been incredibly impactful to me personally. That's why I love what I do almost every day to work on getting this message out, help find patients. There are so many patients that are suffering. Tens of thousands of families don't know about what we've just talked about today. Tens of thousands of patients just in the United States. That TED Talk was phenomenal. A year ago, for what Anna put out there, put forth in, I think it was 13 minutes, was really the future of genetic kidney disease, but it was just one portion of what they're working on at the Broad. As she talks about in there, these compounds have great possibilities in other areas, as she talks about. And you can, every person that sees this presentation ought to look at that TED Talk. Again, you can see that right on our front page at rarekidney.org. Last comment is the clinic, recruiting and having the clinicians come and collaborate with beyond world-class scientists and physicians like Anna Greka. Just come and be involved. The message has not gone out to this point. It is starting to. We're involved with ASN, have been the last number of years, the Physicians Organization for Nephrologists. But there's just enormous hope. And again, spending half of my life working on this and hoping on this isn't a pipe dream. This is a very real opportunity to absolutely find a way to halt these diseases. Paul, I want to thank you. You and I are like brothers. We met first on the National Kidney Foundation board. First dinner we ever had, we talked about our families, and it's just taken off from there. You've been such an incredible support of the launching the Rare Kidney Disease Foundation, and I just think it's such an ideal way to have an ally, a lead ally like AAKP, and you with your leadership there and your story, which hasn't been told today, but you've got an amazing story too. So, and Joe, you're to find you on Instagram, which I never look at, is somewhat of a miracle. I never look at that, but I found you, and you've just jumped in and led our branding and marketing and outreach efforts. I'm inspired by the volunteers that every day do something to reach out to those tens of thousands of families just in the United States. So there's several ways that the audience can get involved. If you're on dialysis, there's probably a large number that may be listening to this. Contact us. There's great hope, great information, and great science. And this isn't a pipe dream. This is the real thing. Anna, I just have so much respect for you and your team and what you've done with globally as I've interacted with some of your colleagues in Israel and in the Mediterranean. You're driving this miracle forward. Now we're trying to get the word out to the patients that you so passionately care about. And that's what resonated with me 8 or 9 years ago when we first met.
So, Richard, what I'm going to do is ask Joe to give us a final word here on the way out. Joe, you recently came across this information. For a lot of folks, sometimes they think the comfortable seat in the house is in the spectator seats. You jumped out of your seat and jumped into the arena. You have your kids, you have your family, you have your business. You know what it's like to employ people. You know what it's like to make a difference. You know that kidney disease is both a healthcare and workforce issue. So for the folks that are watching, give us the brass tacks. How can they get involved? We'll put up the website. And if they decide to volunteer, what are some of the practical things that you can get them involved in on day one?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, volunteer day one, like anything, we just need hands to get more stuff done. The more people we have volunteering, and as Richard said, you can just come to the website, but we can get more social media out, more printed materials out in place. We can get more, boots on the ground talking to nephrologist groups. It's literally a question of man hours, just like any kind of managing anything. Just the more people you have, the more you can get done, and the quicker you can get it done.
Richard and Joe and Dr. Greka, I'd like to thank you on behalf of the American Association of Kidney Patients and to the Rare Kidney Disease Foundation for being such a solid and proactive ally for kidney patients around the world who are suffering from rare diseases and who are in pursuit of genetic solutions so that we can prevent more kidney diseases and save more lives. Our session today will be put out globally and here across the United States. We encourage you to learn more about the Rare Kidney Disease Foundation and the work that Richard and Joe and Dr. Greka are doing. We are certain that in this decade of the kidney, we can see more innovations come, especially for those who suffer from rare kidney diseases. You will see the social media links, you will see the foundation contact information, and again, share this with fellow patients. Share this with medical professionals. We need to get patients involved in research. We need to get them engaged in registries, and we need to make certain that patients are leading the efforts that bring new products and new therapies into the marketplace. When you become a member of the Rare Kidney Disease Foundation, just like when you become a member of the American Association of Kidney Patients, it means you're starting your journey at the research end, and you can pursue your efforts as an advocate and as a patient who cares about other patients around the world by making certain that research progresses, innovation progresses, and as therapies come on board, that your insights and your lived experiences are represented to the FDA and to the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Assistance here in the US when it comes to payment decisions. So if we get a therapy that can start to block and prevent genetic kidney diseases, we can make certain it gets paid for. And this is true also for patients around the world. We are advocates to make certain that people have access to new innovations. And that means removing barriers when we see them, regulatory barriers and payment barriers. We're all in it together. At the Rare Kidney Disease Foundation, we will make certain that your voice is amplified, that your interests, those of your families, and those of your communities are also fully represented. So again, I'd like to thank my very good friend Richard, my very good friend Joe, and Dr. Anna Greka for joining us. Thank you very much.